Picture an ordinary morning. You wake up, and before you've even made it to your first cup of tea, there's already a dull stiffness sitting in your knees and calves, making those first few steps to the kitchen harder than they should be. It's tempting to write that off as just getting older, but there's a real, physical process happening inside the muscle itself. Muscle naturally becomes harder for the body to maintain as the years go on, and for a lot of people, the legs feel it first and hardest, because they're doing the heaviest lifting, literally, all day. Every day. That small hesitation before a flight of stairs, that quiet worry about losing your balance in the kitchen or the shower, can slowly chip away at your independence, and that's the part almost nobody says out loud. The fruit we're talking about today is guava, the humble, inexpensive fruit you can usually find at any local market, often for a fraction of what imported superfood berries or powders cost. Most people walk right past it in the produce section without a second glance, assuming it's just another mildly sweet snack, nothing particularly special. It's not flashy, it's not trendy, and it's definitely not something being sold to you in a fancy jar with a marked up price tag. And the reason it may matter specifically for your legs has less to do with sugar or fiber content, which is where most people's minds go first, and more to do with a nutrient most people never think about when they picture a simple piece of fruit at all. That's really the point of this whole video. The fruit itself isn't the surprising part, what's quietly packed inside it is. Once you hear the reason, checking the price tag next to it will probably feel almost funny. Start with potassium. Guava is a genuinely solid source of it, actually offering more potassium per serving than a lot of people would expect from a fruit that isn't a banana. Potassium plays a direct role in how your muscles contract, including the ones in your thighs and calves that keep you steady while walking, climbing stairs, or simply standing up from a chair without wobbling. Think about the last time a leg cramped up suddenly at night, seemingly out of nowhere. That's close to the kind of moment researchers point to when they talk about potassium's role in ordinary muscle function. Nutrition researchers have long connected low potassium levels with muscle cramping and weakness, especially in older adults, partly because the body's ability to hold on to certain minerals efficiently can shift with age. So getting enough of it through food, rather than relying only on supplements, is one small, practical piece that may support how your legs actually perform, day to day, without you having to think about it too hard. It's the kind of nutrient that rarely makes headlines, quietly working in the background while protein and calcium usually get most of the credit for stronger muscles and bones. Now here's where it gets a little more interesting. Guava also happens to be one of the richest fruit sources of vitamin C there is. Gram for gram it contains several times more than an orange does, which tends to genuinely surprise people who've spent years assuming citrus fruit was unbeatable on that front. Vitamin C isn't just about the immune system, the thing most of us were taught to associate it with growing up. It's essential for building collagen, and collagen is what keeps the connective tissue around your joints, tendons, and muscles strong and flexible enough to keep supporting your weight comfortably. Think of collagen almost like scaffolding, quietly holding everything together so that each step, each time you sit down or stand back up, feels a little more supported and a little less like a small gamble. That tissue naturally weakens a little with age, whether we notice it happening or not, so supporting it through what you eat, consistently, is something researchers increasingly suggest is worth paying real attention to as you get older, rather than only thinking about it after something starts to hurt. It's also worth knowing that heat and long storage can reduce the vitamin C content of produce generally, so eating guava reasonably fresh, rather than after it's sat around for a week, likely makes a real difference in how much of it your body actually gets. There's also the antioxidant content worth mentioning here. Guava contains a mix of antioxidants, including compounds similar to what gives tomatoes their deep red color, along with several polyphenol that don't get nearly as much attention as they probably deserve. Some research suggests that oxidative stress, essentially ordinary wear and tear happening at the cellular level over time, plays a role in how quickly muscle mass tends to decline with age. This isn't something that happens overnight, it's a slow accumulation across decades, which is part of why small, consistent choices at the dinner table tend to matter more over time than any single dramatic change ever could. Antioxidant-rich foods may help offset some of that stress, though it's important to say clearly that this is one contributing piece of a much larger picture, not a fix on its own. Just sit with that for a second, because it's easy to rush past a line like that without really absorbing what it quietly implies about something as ordinary as a piece of fruit. It's a reminder that a lot of what protects the body long-term isn't dramatic, it's cumulative, small, and easy to miss if you're only looking for instant results. Then there's fiber. Guava is unusually high in fiber for a fruit, more than most people would guess just by looking at it, and that fiber helps keep blood sugar more stable after meals rather than causing sharp spikes and crashes. That might not sound directly connected to your legs at first glance, but some research has linked long-term blood sugar swings to faster muscle loss over time, particularly in older adults whose bodies are already managing changes in how insulin works. Keeping things steadier, meal after meal, day after day, may quietly help protect muscle in ways that go well beyond simple digestion, even though nobody ever frames fiber that way. It's a quiet, steady kind of support, the opposite of anything flashy, but often that's exactly the kind that lasts. And finally, there's the water and mineral content, which is easy to overlook completely. Guava is mostly water, and it also contains small but meaningful amounts of magnesium and manganese, both of which play supporting roles in how muscles and nerves communicate and function properly. Mild dehydration and low mineral intake are both fairly common in older adults, often without anyone realizing it's even happening, since thirst signals themselves tend to become less reliable with age. It's a small, easy thing to overlook, but staying reasonably hydrated is often one of the first, simplest things worth checking when legs start feeling unusually heavy, tired, or achy for no obvious reason. Both dehydration and low mineral intake have been associated in research with cramping, fatigue, and general weakness that shows up specifically in the legs, which happen to carry more of the body's daily workload than almost any other muscle group. It's one of those rare cases where a food that's mostly water can genuinely pull double duty, contributing to both hydration and nutrition in the exact same bite. Now here's the honest twist, because you might already be thinking that one fruit surely can't undo decades of wear and tear on your legs, and honestly, you'd be right to think that. No single food works alone, and anyone telling you otherwise is probably trying to sell you something. Guava isn't a replacement for movement, for medical care, or for anything your body genuinely needs, and it was never meant to be. What actually seems to matter, based on how these nutrients function, is that potassium, vitamin C, antioxidants, and fiber work together rather than in isolation, which is likely part of why a whole fruit tends to outperform an isolated vitamin pill claiming to do the exact same job in a capsule. If there's one thing worth holding on to from everything we've covered, it's this: potassium and vitamin C together, a combination guava happens to be unusually rich in compared to most common fruits, are two of the more overlooked pieces when people talk about supporting muscle and joint health after 60. Most conversations about aging and strength jump straight to protein or structured exercise, and those absolutely matter, nobody's disputing that. But this particular pairing, quiet and easy to overlook, is the piece that keeps getting left out of the conversation entirely, even though it's sitting right there in something this ordinary, this common, and this genuinely inexpensive. It's a small addition, not a dramatic overhaul, and small, sustainable changes tend to be exactly the kind that actually stick around long enough to matter. That, more than any single dramatic claim, is probably the most honest way to think about food's role in aging well. If any of this was useful to you, subscribing helps this channel keep making videos like it, and it genuinely costs you nothing to do. I'd honestly like to know, down in the comments, when your legs tend to feel it the most, is it first thing in the morning, going up or down stairs, or after standing for a while somewhere like the kitchen or a checkout line? Your answer might genuinely help someone else reading through the comments later, more than you'd expect. And if you're curious what else pairs well with guava for supporting your legs as you get older, there's another video on this channel walking through some simple daily movements that work alongside everything we just talked about, worth watching next, so don't skip it. So to put it simply, your legs carry you through every single day without asking for much credit, and a small, inexpensive fruit like guava may be one quiet, research-backed piece of support for them as you continue getting older, alongside everything else you're already doing for your health. Nothing here replaces an actual conversation with your doctor, especially if you're dealing with real, persistent pain or ongoing weakness that concerns you. Think of this less as a fix and more as one small, sensible habit worth adding to everything you're already doing right. But sometimes, it really is the small, ordinary things sitting quietly in a fruit bowl that add up the most, one habit at a time, one guava at a time.